Excuse me. Good evening. Welcome to the Wareham Planning Board meeting of July 22nd, 2024 in the room 520 of the Multi-Service Center. Calling the meeting to order, we'll begin with a roll call. To my left,
Mike Baptiste here.
Jane Gleason here.
Sam Corbett here.
Carl Schultz here, and I will note that Julie Moran is absent at this time. All right. The first order of business tonight is review and approval of the planning board minutes of July 8th. Oh, for the record, please note that Ms. Moran is here at 6 o'clock and 45 seconds.
Attention.
Wait for you to get seated. Okay. The first order of business is the minutes of July 8th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to review minutes? Any comments?
They look good to me.
None for me.
Make a motion we accept.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, wait, I need it. Did you second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor?
Aye. Mike Baptiste, aye.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. All right. I have some papers to hand out. All right. The first item on the agenda is 3821 David Andrade, 69 Great Neck Road, request of release of lots from covenant. This is also known as Shell Point Place. Please note that I am distributing the certificate of approval for the definitive subdivision plan from March, dated 2022, March 31, for the copies for the board to look at. So, just so you have it, discuss this.
Thank you.
Discuss this. Discuss this. Is the applicant here? I do not see the applicant. Mr. Faraday, if you could just, what do you, I'll summarize what I think we're going to act on. Do you have a summary of what the planning office thinks we're acting on?
I think you guys are acting on the release of lots and establishing a bond value to allow for the release.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to read another item into the record. I have a document from Allen and Majors dated July 3rd, 2024. Unfortunately, I don't have copies for everyone, but it is the report that Mr. Cordero made where he made a recommended schedule of values. So we'll also talk about that. So back earlier this year, probably, it might have been January, Mr. Andrade came before us to begin discussing this. And we outlined a process for him to go through. So he needed to establish a bond. We have a schedule of values, so we need a bond for that amount. And I don't have any, and then that bond has to get reviewed by the town attorney so that he can accept it and say it's an acceptable bond. Then the board votes to recommend to the select board that the bond is sufficient. We feel it's sufficient, and we're recommending or not to accept the bond. Then it comes back to us. Then we need the release of the covenant and the other forms. So far, I don't have any record that a bond has been established or presented.
I can't say that there has been one.
Okay. Couple of other items of note. There's some conditions of approval, and one of them is establishing an HOA. I haven't seen an HOA document, so I'm not sure who's advising Mr. Andrade or helping him through this process. but he needs to meet, before we can, we probably, is Ken on?
Yes, he is.
So, through, Mr. Buckland, I have a question about item 13 and the conditions. Hi, Ken.
How you doing?
Good. Item 13 of the conditions says that no individual lots of the subdivision shall be released until a homeowners association document has been recorded. Normally, we could release the covenant, under normal process, we could replace the covenant with a bond. Does this clause prevent us from doing that?
Yes, it does.
Okay, this is not a standard condition, right? I don't
It
remember.
is a standard condition. It's been applied for most of the subdivisions except the small ones.
Okay, but
It's
in the
been
past,
applied to all the subdivisions that have come through the board previously.
but we've released covenants in lieu of a bond, or replaced a bond for a covenant, right?
Yes, we have.
So I'm asking for advice on how to reconcile that.
Well, there's been an HOA with those ones, I assume.
Not filed,
Can
okay.
you give me an example?
No, I can't sitting here. This was brought up by your office to me as a question.
Yes, and the HOA is necessary to be in place before the lots are released.
Why do we need HOA?
That's a different, this
Okay,
covenant requires an HOA. So that's why we need it for this project. All right, so the HOA has to be recorded. We have nothing to replace the covenant because there's a remaining work to be done. We don't have a bond. So we can't release the covenant because the HOA document hasn't been provided and recorded. So,
That's right, and the bond hasn't been put up either.
right, that's
So
what I said. There's
two
no
strikes
bond.
against it, that you can't go ahead with the release at this time.
Right, okay. All right, so I don't think there's any action for the board to take.
I agree.
Okay. there-
Can we send him a letter?
Yeah, why don't we establish a punch list and I can get it out to him so he knows why we didn't make any action this evening.
Get it in writing?
Okay, well, he needs to meet the conditions of approval, certainly number 13. And we can go back to the minutes of the meeting where he came, where I think we enumerated what he had to do. He needs to establish a bond.
And this was when, back in January?
I believe it was January.
Okay.
And we could confirm the date of that meeting. That form of bond needs to be acceptable to the town attorney. The amount has to match the amount that Mr. Cordero put in his letter, if the board finds that acceptable, which was $349,030.48. So the form of the bond or the form of, I mean, if he puts up cash, that's also acceptable. Cash is always good. Then he has to come back, once the attorney has approved the form of the bond, he has to come back, show us the bond for that amount. The planning board votes to recommend to the select board that this is a suitable replacement for the covenant. The select board acts, agrees to accept the bond, then it comes back to us, and then we have to release the covenant, and there's a couple of other forms that we have to talk about.
Can we put all that in writing so he knows what the process is? And if so, if we agree on that, who's going to do it?
I have the punch list, I'll do it.
I'd like to have him know exactly what the process is. Okay,
Okay, and then the other thing he's got to do is he's got to resolve the HOA document, and it has to get recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
You can get that online. Easy enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will just say that I had an unsigned copy of the covenant, and I ran at the title of the Registry of Deeds, found the completed and signed covenant, and there was no HOA recorded, at least as of this evening.
Right. The other thing is, has he returned all the documents filed at the Plymouth Registry back to the clerk? We've recently discovered that closing that loop isn't always happening.
I'll have to go and check the clerk's office. I can say that I did not find it in planning board documents.
Okay, so
Let me
that,
check with the
that has to be completed.
Yep.
Mr. Cudero, have you done all the inspections, or some inspections? You've done some inspections for the, I'm sorry, please come forward, and you dropped something. Welcome.
Phil Cordero, Allen and Major Associates. We've done a number of inspections since Mr. Andrade appeared back in front of the board.
And-
There
and-
were a couple that were missed that Mr. Andrade elected to run some binder cores on, which we also inspected. And to date, everything has checked out accordingly to the plans.
And those have all been filed with the planning office?
Yes.
So a request to the planning office, the next time this comes back, could you bring a complete package with all the inspection reports, the copy of the certificate filed with the clerk, and whatever other paperwork will help us? You're not finding any problems with the inspections that would be?
There are items incomplete, of course, which is what surety is really for, but nothing problematic.
Okay, great. All right, so what I understand, the action item is Mr. Faraday is going to summarize these items, and is going to communicate that back to Mr. Andrade, and we'll bring this back before the board.
Question. Is having that file standard operating procedure?
Excuse me?
Having the file with everything completed in one place, is that standard procedure?
Normally, when we get a package in the box, we get a green binder from the planning office. Now, I don't remember if inspection reports and everything else are in there, so I can't, and we don't have one tonight. But, so, yes, the standard procedure should be, we should get
Everything in one place?
everything in one place
Okay.
when we're acting. Okay, so,
And who is responsible for that?
through me to either Josh or Mr. Buckland, who's responsible for maintaining that package and delivering it to the planning board?
The planning office.
So, no,
I'm not, yeah.
okay.
So,
The answer is the
Yes.
planning office.
Phil, can you
Okay, I
send me a
just want to
copy
make
of all
sure,
those inspection
if we
reports?
say a letter's going to be done, we have a name attached to it, or a group of names, so we sent a letter to Walmart, but it wasn't sent.
I'm working on that.
Those are the letter to the select board and the letter to Walmart are on the planning board's chart, and we'll get to that at the end.
Okay.
Okay?
And I know that the planning office is very short-staffed, but it would, if at all possible, to actually look at what we have. For instance, there was an unsigned covenant, and just call the applicant and say, hey, we're putting together a package, could you get it to us so we won't be
Right.
here waiting? So, thanks.
So there's no action. So one other request to the planning office. So when we're acting on an application, if we could have the entire package in the box, even if it's, then we could answer some of these questions.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fair. Understood.
Another thing, a request to the planning office is, it turns out we're having a problem with applicants returning the copy of the documents from the Registry of Deeds. I understand the planning office tracks that for the zoning board, but does not track that for the planning board. My request is the planning office track the return of those documents and have positive confirmation that they're returned.
Who is going to do that?
The planning office, they're managed, that's,
All right.
I can't,
I know, Carl, I'm just trying to establish a procedure. We don't have names attached to things, we have files that have to be done. I don't want to overburden the one person who's doing 3 jobs.
you-
You say planning office, that means we look to jobs.
everyone, and no one. Well, no, we looked at Ken, because Ken is the director of planning.
Okay,
That seems doable. I think we can keep track of when something's recorded and brought back to the
Okay,
office.
so you're going to also check that we have the filed copies and provide that the next time. Any more discussion on this project?
Not tonight.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is 1922 Dos Amigos Realty LLC Peyton Estates, lots 1010A3 and 1010D on map 74. This is also a request of release of lots for covenant. And this one will be able to go through the procedure again. To read into the record, I am distributing copy Form C1 dated May 22nd, 2023, approval of certificate for a definitive subdivision plan for project number 523 Peyton Estates. So distributing this. For me, okay, so let me flip. I'd also like to read into the record that we have a performance secured by lender agreement. It's undated at the moment, from Dos Amigos, and it's the legal document for the bond in the amount of $237,997.94. So we have the bond. We have a Form J from the planning for the same estate in the same amount, which would be the release of lots from covenant, which we would sign once the bond is in place. We have the Form C, and
No HOA on this one? No homeowners on this one?
I don't know if we, let me read the, actually, it's a good question, Mike. I'm gonna have to go back and
No,
read
we gotta
this.
be consistent here.
I know, thank you. So, I'm looking at the conditions, required inspections. Conditions, developer shall, required inspections. Those are all the things that I read in. Porta potty approvals. Endorsement of the approval is conditional upon the provision of a performance guarantee in the form of the covenant duly executed and approved, to be noted. Did you check this covenant as well?
Did not.
Okay, so has this covenant been filed? I believe it has. So Ken, here's an example where I don't see reference to a homeowners association in the conditions.
That's what I said, the small ones don't typically have, this is a 2-lot subdivision. and the,
Okay. So Peyton Estates is the 2-lot subdivision, Mr. Andrade is the 6-lot subdivision, right?
correct.
Okay.
Mike, you turn that off, please?
All right. So
Thank you.
I believe that we're being, and I thought I printed a copy. Mr. Cordero, if you could come forward. Apparently I didn't, I thought I printed Mr. Cordero's schedule of values, but I don't have it with me. So the amount of the proposed bond is, hang on.
237,997.94.
And I can't, I believe you had a schedule of values, I just don't have it.
That's correct, 237-99794. The applicant had actually submitted their own schedule of values that we reevaluated, rectified some quantities, and applied some pricing for the board.
That includes the as-built and the 25% contingency.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So I think we have all of the requirements in order to recommend to the Select Board. Oh, have we heard from Mr. Bowen that this is an acceptable bond? I have not.
I don't know that we have. My assumption is he'll review it before it goes to the select board. He tends to review all their matters.
All right. So I'm looking for a conditional recommendation to move this to the Select Board for their action. And the planning board recommendation is contingent on Attorney Bowen's acceptance of the form of the bond. So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Jane Gleason. All in favor?
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste, aye.
And the chair votes aye. A process question, I believe this is on the agenda for the Select Board for tomorrow night. What do we need to do to notify the Select Board of our recommendation?
An email to the chairman.
I'll email Chairperson Whiteside this evening. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable.
Acceptable to the, okay, so Josh, if you would just capture that's my to-do. 38, this is, which one is it? This is 2023. No, it's not, it's 523.
It's listed on the agenda as 1922. It's 523.
Oh, this may have been, I'm sorry. This was probably, no, it's got a different number on the,
Form C1 has 523 as the project number,
yeah.
and our agenda has 1922.
However, the approval relates to the right, based on the agenda, the right lots.
Right property and
Yeah.
lots.
It's in our files online as 1922 as well.
Right.
So I don't know what that 523 is.
So,
What are you showing us?
Josh, this is the right document, right?
Yeah, so 523 is the approval of the definitive subdivision, and 1922 would be, what's that?
Is it the A&R?
Is the covenant of the,
No, we don't, it should all be the same project number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two different project numbers, but they were both listed on our project lists as definitive subdivision.
Jane, you're looking at the website. What does it say on the web? Do we have 523 out there as well?
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, 523 and, what was it,
22.
22 are both listed as Peyton Estates.
Yes, but they're two different, what was, the earlier one was 1922. What was it actually? That says definitive subdivision plan.
This is my list typed up from the information there so that you can track it by year. And so here's 1922, definitive subdivision, Peyton Estates, Dos Amigos. And then under 523, definitive subdivision, Peyton Estates. So that's how I took it right from these lists.
Right, thank you. So Josh, can you explain what we're looking at?
I mean, they both refer to the same map and lot.
But there should only be one approved definitive subdivision plan.
I agree.
So 5.
I'll go back and look at my notes. Okay, so,
Yeah, 523. Dos Amigos Realty LLC, definitive subdivision of Peyton Estates. In 1922. Dos Amigos Realty, definitive subdivision of Peyton Estates.
one was probably a preliminary.
Probably.
So it actually looks like, I don't have the recorded one from the clerk, but it looks like 1922, you voted to deny.
I don't remember. All right, but 523 was approved.
523 was approved, that's correct.
So, is there a problem with the agenda refers to the wrong project?
I would say that's a problem.
I'd say you're taking action on.
Yeah.
Ken, do you have an opinion on this?
What does the agenda say, 523 or 1922?
The agenda says 1922.
So that's what we can discuss.
Which was a denied, according to Josh.
I'm looking at a Word document that is not signed by any of the board. But that's the only thing I see in our folders for 19-22.
Straighten that shit out.
All right, so we can't take action on, and my guess is they want to release lots from 5-23.
Yeah, I think that the agenda being wrong would not allow people to review the proper documents. So I don't think you can take action on this one at this time.
All right, so I will then also send a notice to the chair of the select board saying we were unable to take action due to an administrative error. And so I have to send email.
And then notify the applicant.
All right, Josh, could the planning office
Yep.
notify the applicant, and we'll just put it back on the agenda.
Should be quick.
It's, I don't think there's any issue with, except for this administrative problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I will send a note to the chair of the select board. No action at this time. All right. The next item, 2023, David and Lisa Mather, 24 Oak Street, a discussion. Mr. Cudero, if you could come forward, I'm going to need your assistance here. So, as chair of the planning board, I have received two informal complaints, and I say they're informal because they weren't submitted in writing, about erosion problems on this street. The first complaint was in April of this year, and subsequent to that, Mr. Cordero went out and made an inspection, and I think at the time you didn't really find any problems.
We found some erosion, Mr. Chair, but it wasn't egregious.
Okay, so I got another complaint today where there is massive erosion and dirt in the streets, storm drains completely covered over. There's some other interesting items in the pictures that were sent, which I've asked the citizen to make a formal complaint. But that leads us to the discussion for tonight. So, when I was just following this informally because I got the complaint informally. I asked the planning office to ask Mr. Cordero to go out. Mr. Cordero went out, and I'm going to read into the record. Hopefully I brought it with me. I must have left something on the printer. Anyway, Mr. Cordero issued inspection report number 1, dated in May of this year. And could you just quickly summarize that?
For sure. So it was dated May 10, 2024, to be more particular. We went out following up on the complaint that was issued by the board. We found some erosion on Oak Street from vehicles entering and exiting, basically the construction zone. So our recommendation is, of course, to clean that. They did have siltation barriers intact around the perimeter, so it was really focused along the Oak Street corridor.
Okay. So when I read that report, which I saw, I think, last week, I was struck by the fact that it was noted as inspection report number 1, which surprised me because there were very specific inspection requirements for this project. And I checked, we have no inspections. Have you done any other inspections at this site?
No, so it was numbered 1 because it was the first time we had been out there.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
So,
No, sir.
I'm going to read into the record, maybe I did copy all this. Nope. An item, Form C1, Planning Board, Town of Wareham, Massachusetts, Certificate of Approval of Definitive Plan, January 9th, 2024, for project number 2023, map and lot, map 39, lot M20, a subdivision at 24 Oak Street, Wareham. There was a very detailed set of requirements for inspections in this document. Apparently, given that the construction has fairly well progressed, and I'm going to bring up another point on that, none of these inspections have been completed, and yet development has continued.
And to be clear, whose responsibility is it to call for the inspections?
The applicant.
Thank you.
It's very clear in the, I have a question, remind me at the end, I have a question for you about that. So in further investigating, I went to go and find if the applicant ever filed the documents from the Plymouth Registry of Deeds. They have not. So they've never filed the documents from the Plymouth Registry of Deeds. They have not completed any of the required inspections. And based on the complaint, which I got today, which needs to go through channels with pictures, the applicant has completely trenched along the side of the road and put a brick wall in, which was not what was approved in the road plan. It was as you remember, or you may not remember, this project was originally approved. He missed the extension date. We had a fairly discussion with Bob Rogers. Charlie Rowley was very concerned in his report about erosion. We were assured that erosion controls would be in place. The latest complaint says that all of the stone has washed off of the street down into the roadbed, and it's been restoned again. So our concerns at the time were snow plowing, pushing the stones off. Now I have concerns that what they built isn't what was approved, for discussion.
That was a big concern when that site first came before us the first time, was the erosion on that hill. You know, the neighbors were worried about it. That
Yes,
was going to sweep right down.
We had a very nice lady who lived at the end worried about the
Right,
road
it's going to
washing
go right in the
into
front
her-
yard,
Right
yeah.
into her front yard.
Yeah.
And we were assured it wouldn't happen.
Well, I think, well, where do we go from there?
Okay, so that's my next question. So a question to Mr. Buckland. Are you still there, Ken?
He's there, it's just he's muted.
All right.
Still here.
Okay, great, Ken. So my understanding from a brief discussion that I had with you is that if this were a completed subdivision and we had said this is done, whatever that means, this would be an issue for Mr. Turner as a zoning enforcement officer. However, because this is still an active project, my understanding, and I just want to make sure that I'm paraphrasing correctly, enforcement falls to the planning board.
That's correct. It's the zoning enforcement officer is only good for the zoning bylaw. The subdivision, it comes under the planning board, and the planning board is the enforcement agent.
Okay, I don't think any of us had ever discussed this before, but okay, so for the record, prior to the completion of a project, and we need to record this in our rules and regulations because it doesn't say that.
Noting.
That the advice is that the planning board is the enforcement.
Zoning enforcement officer, yeah.
We're not an officer.
Officer,
but,
office.
Office,
Do we
okay.
get badges?
Yes, we get badges. We don't need no stinking badges.
We need big badges.
Okay, so, assuming that we're going to put on our hat as an enforcement office,
Is that a motion?
no, we don't have to motion, I mean, what are our options, Ken?
Cease and desist.
You can call them out to cease and desist, further action until they correct the problems that have been created, if there are problems that have been created.
Okay, well, one, we know we don't have the copy of the registry document. We know that none of the inspections have been done. We know that we've had citizens' complaints about erosion, and we know that they've constructed something on the roadway that wasn't part of the plan. So,
You can rescind the subdivision as well.
I'm sorry?
You can rescind the subdivision as well.
Okay, so before we take action, should we have an inspection by Mr. Cordero and a report?
Yes, you should. You should document the problems that have been created and identify them as serious problems.
Okay, so in addition to whatever Mr. Cordero, so Mr. Cordero, if you were to go out and do an inspection, and you're going to take the subdivision plan and look at it, and if there are concrete wall or brick walls established, that would not be consistent with the plan, is that correct?
Correct.
You haven't found it yet, but and that would then be in the
Might.
report. You would say, what kind of thing would you say? This is,
We would note what has been constructed, what work has been performed, and then we would note whether it aligns with the approved plans.
Okay.
The end result of that,
Would be for us, yes. No, I was just trying to make sure that we would get some kind of feedback regarding that.
of course,
My request also is if we, also I've noted the 53G account was never really funded. There's $800 in the 53G account at the moment. It was never refunded when we filed the original subdivision didn't get extended, but the 53G account, the only funds in there were from the original subdivision. I expressed a concern that that's not the 53G account for this project, and we shouldn't be using funds for that. So I think the 53G account needs to be funded, but that's an office process that I don't understand. I got into a circular discussion. So I don't think there's a 53G account for this project. But there are funds in the, I don't know how 53G accounts work. If we were to request, could you go out tomorrow and do the inspection? Because the last time there was like maybe a month between the original runoff complaint and when you got out there. What do we do if there's no money in the 53G account for this project?
If you decide to have an inspection, you're going to have to pay for it yourself through the planning board office consultants fund.
But they're required to do inspections. What do you advise? I think there's a sense of urgency about getting the report because of the runoff condition.
I think so too. I think this is as Mike Baptiste said, this is the key issue that came out from the neighboring residents about what the subdivision was going to potentially do because of the grading that was proposed in the plan. So I think this is an issue that you should address with the inspection and make a determination of whether or not the applicant can come in and explain themselves and make corrections, or that you use the threat of rescinding the subdivision as a final option.
And we should wait till we get Mr. Cordero's report before we send any threatening notices, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
You have to have eyes on the site and make the determination that it was inappropriate or there was something wrong,
Right.
substantially wrong with the project.
Okay.
And-
Go ahead, Julie.
Sorry, and Ken, you could, assuming that Mr. Cordero comes back with a report that, as Sam just said, we have a safety issue and we have a non-compliance issue, we could very quickly get out a cease and desist with an order to appear at the next available meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
We have pictures. It's a safety issue that needs to be addressed tomorrow. And I'm not sure how we can do it tomorrow.
Well,
Well, I guess my cease and desist means stop work.
Right.
So it would really mean that Mr. Cordero would determine what the deficiencies are, but he would need to stop work, not do anything more.
but we would not be able to act on that without
And even.
meeting again.
Right.
So,
A question, okay, first question. If the board agrees, do you have funds to fund Mr. Cordero's inspection?
so I'm curious about where those brick walls are.
Ken? He's frozen. Oh,
Mr. Cordero, how much do you think it would cost to do an inspection?
I would, $200.
Yeah.
I think we have enough funds in the account to pay for that then.
okay. So I'm looking for a motion.
Clarification,
Yeah.
we have funds available. I've never heard that before. In what form is that, Ken? Do we have an account? Do we have petty cash? Checkbook? I mean, I've never heard that before.
You have my budget. and I can help pay for things that the board takes on.
Okay, there's a budget line item
Yes,
in your budget.
yeah, that's the rainy day account, Sam. If you're building $1 million house, you can do anything you want in this town. You're exempt.
Okay, so I'm looking for a
Good
motion.
example is do
Can
what
I
you
just
want.
ask one question? Sorry. Is there, and I'm asking this question procedurally, is there a way, if Mr. Cudero goes out tomorrow and determines
I want to
that
deal with
there's-
that. Can we hold that?
Yeah, okay,
I have a,
good. You have a solution.
I
Thank
have a
you, sir.
recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm first looking for a motion to authorize Mr. Cudero to do an immediate site inspection of this Wareham Project 2023 MAP 39, Lot M2, 24 Oak Street, Wareham. It's a two-lot subdivision, and the road name is Quentin Way. I'm looking for a motion to authorize an immediate inspection to be funded using funds from the planning office contingency budget.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. A question to Mr. Cudero. And you think you could get out there tomorrow?
Definite.
And how long would it take you to turn around a report to us?
No greater than a day. So if we're out there tomorrow, you'd see it on Wednesday at the latest.
Okay, so to respond to that, given the sense of urgency, let's see. Ken, would it be possible,
Go ahead.
do you want to say something, or can I finish?
Well, I'm concerned with safety. I've seen the pictures. It's
All right.
great that inspection gets done tomorrow, it comes back to us.
I'm trying to resolve that, so let me,
Okay, okay.
that's the thing. So Ken, can I work, assuming that I have the planning board approval, tomorrow, 48 hours from tomorrow morning would be Thursday afternoon. Could I work with the planning office to get an emergency agenda item, single item agenda by Zoom for the planning board to meet on this topic to review Mr. Cudero's report and possible vote to take whatever action is necessary? Is everybody available on Thursday for a Zoom call?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mike, can you,
Via Zoom, yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
all right, we'll figure out how to,
we'll figure something out there.
okay,
And
so,
Make a motion, we give you that authority.
okay, so, all in favor?
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And Carl Schultz votes aye. So Josh, or, oh, go
I
ahead.
have one more question.
But can we finish on this before we?
Okay, all right.
So, Josh, I can work with you and Sonia to get the agenda posted first thing in the morning. And it'll just be Zoom. John, can you guys support that?
What time are you guys meeting?
What time can you guys meet?
Pick a time.
Well, I'm trying to,
Can we do the 6 o'clock regular meeting
can
time?
you support us at 6 o'clock? Just Zoom.
You guys are on the same account. Well, actually,
We got money.
Okay, so then the other request, before I come back to you, I would like to request that the planning office prepare a cease and desist order and a demand to appear order to be able to send, should we make that determination on Thursday, and send it express mail or whatever, registered, signed receipt, however we normally do that. Is that something I could work with you guys on?
Absolutely.
Yeah. send it.
Okay, so we can, and if we don't vote to do it, we don't send the letter, but if everything we're fearing is true, and we mention the runoff, we mention, I suspect that there's a deviation from the plan. I suspect that all, the inspections haven't been completed. I suspect that we don't have the proper paperwork from the Registry of Deeds. So mention all of these things, and then have a demand for appearance. What does August 8th look like? I mean,
August 12th.
It's
August 12th, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
I'll be here on the 8th, but
If it's as bad as it sounds, if something is washing into the street right now, you probably want correction immediately. So not necessarily a full cease and desist, but a correction of the problem.
okay, so you'll help us word what we want them to do. We have to list the items that have to be repaired and remediated.
Correct.
Sorry, I had one more question for Mr. Gadaro. Would your report indicate, I assume if there was an imminent issue, how quickly it would need to be repaired? Just what, Ken, kind of what you're saying. So it is not something he can just wait to do. If there was something that you felt comfortable he needs to do and could do versus don't touch, if I may.
We can give opinions on urgency and imminency. What we don't do, where we stop short, we don't direct the contractors in the field to do anything. That
Right.
falls to the board. However, if there is something urgent and safety and life safety related that we were to observe in the field, we would state it in the field.
And you could then go further and make recommendations on the remediation,
Of course, of course,
types of possible remediation.
of course.
Right.
I have another comment.
All right, so we have a plan, go for it. Sam?
We have a safety issue. We have a storm drain that's full. We have sand and rocks across the road. It's a safety issue. Everything in place is wonderful, but somebody could get hurt tomorrow. Is there some way we can get it done, possibly through municipal maintenance, so they can clear it out, and have the proponent pay for it? I mean, it's a safety issue that needs to be addressed.
I understand that. My concern is the whole open meeting law and not being able to get back.
That's
to
why I
it.
bring up no open meeting, so we can possibly get a plan in place so we can solve the problem. It's a problem that we're working on. It's
But it
all well
needs
and good. We
immediate
have a safety
attention.
issue tomorrow.
So Ken, would municipal maintenance be responsible for cleaning up Oak Street
In an emergency,
in an emergency?
Yes, I think that's the option we have available. We can inform town council as well and see if he has any recommendations on emergency action.
Okay, and can you inform town council of that?
Yes,
And can you inform municipal maintenance of our concern?
yes.
Okay.
tomorrow morning, Ken?
This evening, yes.
Okay, excellent, thank you very much.
Great, and then I have guests, but I'll find a way to work with you guys tomorrow. But we need to get the agenda posted so that we could, and it's a single item agenda. What about Zoom?
So are you able to meet earlier over Zoom? Because I just meet for broadcasting purposes because you guys would be conflicting with the school committee.
With who,
With
how
school
much
committee.
earlier?
They start at 7, so if you guys can meet early enough and complete before 7, then whenever you guys want then at that point.
Or meet at
Short meeting.
5.
Is everybody available at 5? All right, so let's
Yes.
post a single agenda item to meet at 5. Discussion, possible vote, and action at 5 PM. That's what our agenda should say, Josh. And it's the same Zoom link, John?
Yeah, it'll be the same link, yes.
Thank you. So you don't need to wait for, I mean, we could write that agenda. You don't need me to come into the office to write that, right?
No.
And then I'll,
Supposed to rain this evening.
which,
According to the National Weather Service, 76% chance of rain tonight. Heavy downpour.
all right, so it might be a good time. I don't control your schedule, but if you could get out there,
We will get out there.
Because the last citizen who made the complaint said that there's gravel all over the road. If somebody came by on a motorcycle, they're gonna slip. I'm very concerned. I appreciate your concern. I'm trying to work within the constraints of,
I understand. On a safety issue, we have to be ready to act to provide a safe environment for the public. And I'm glad we're going this way. I'm glad Ken agreed to do that first thing tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. Because it could be worse tomorrow than it is now.
And Ken, obviously, if the town does have to clean up, then my assumption is it becomes a lien on their property, such that you would demand they reimburse the town?
That's what I'm hoping would occur, yes.
That's a great idea.
Rain is predicted for after midnight, but it's not insignificant, it looks like. But that's a prediction.
you have, before we close this, any other thoughts or recommendations or suggestions?
No, we're happy to go out, we'll take a look at it. If we conclude here early tonight, I'll go right after this meeting.
Okay, and you think the course of action would be consistent from an engineering perspective as the
Yes.
appropriate way to proceed?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Last item on, we're still gonna get out of here early, Sam.
I was looking for a record tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kadir.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much.
I don't think we need you for this last one if you wanna.
You better stay.
Quick. Run.
What did I do with my pen? There it is. Street name acceptance, hidden trails. We previously heard, I don't have any forms to sign, but we previously heard a request the last meeting to approve the street names. There was some question, well, as to were all the proper notifications done. The planning office worked assiduously this week, and the last report I had, Josh, was that you heard from everyone but the postmaster.
That's correct, yeah.
So, nobody has a problem. We can waive subdivision rules and regulations, so I'm saying for this, Ken, do you see any problem waiving the postmaster response for this road name?
No, I don't. So long as the assessor is fine with it.
Yes, and I saw an email from Ms. Nichols saying she was fine.
Then I would accept the road names as, without the postmaster's comments.
So I'm looking for a motion. Oh,
Question, there was a question on whether the police department had been notified.
they were notified.
So we have letters back from police, fire, and EMS,
Okay,
and the assessor, saying that there are no issues with these proposed names.
okay, that's good.
Just a note for our Rules and Regs Committee, there's some,
PD wasn't there.
well, depending on where you look, the form doesn't match. The form has everybody, God, his sister, and needs to be notified. So it's a little inconsistent on the form. and
I agree, just when we talked about it, they weren't on the list.
They were notified.
make sure that-
EMS was notified.
Okay, good,
Postmaster was notified, but hasn't responded.
Yeah. And
So,
that's fine.
so I'm looking for a motion to accept, I don't even remember
Do
what,
we have the names?
I do.
Hidden
I
trails.
think we put the names into the record.
I got them, if you want them.
Yes, please.
Okay, so there are 4 proposed names, the first one being Abbey Lane, Abbie. The second one being Zachary Way, Zachary. The third one being Kerry Lane, Kerry. And the fourth one being Beth Circle, Beth.
So we know the name of the children.
So, motion to accept the street names as read into the record, accepting or excluding notification from the postmaster.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Mike
Sam
Baptiste.
Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste, aye.
And the chair votes aye. So, that was last week. All right, so, Josh, for some reason, your item didn't make it onto the agenda.
Yeah, you're right.
All right.
Is it an emergency?
No. Perhaps we don't shoot for August 1st and we shoot for, or is still August 1st okay? How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. Let's shoot for August 1st. I'll give you an update at your first meeting in August.
On the 12th. Okay, so it's not on the agenda, so we're not going to discuss it. There was a hope that we could have a presentation on the migration to Viewpoint for handling applications, and we voted in May to begin the process June 1st, and we had had a preliminary discussion at the
Right.
time. Josh has been working as city, I'm going to do this under status report, to get it in place. And unfortunately, we didn't have it on the agenda to talk about tonight. So we'll talk about it on the 12th, but we're going to try and this is a back office procedure, so.
A question, who puts the agenda together? Whose name is on it?
Okay, so the agenda is put together in a collaborative process.
I understand that.
Okay, so Ken and Josh provide input to Sonia. I provided input to Sonia. All of you are welcome to
But
send.
everything goes
Wait.
to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to answer your question. So, and then I have input, and Sonia goes to the chair for the, kind of the blessing.
So everything goes through her and she puts it together.
I believe she constructs the agenda,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, due to scheduling last week, I didn't get it until 4 PM on Thursday. I was out on the road, I looked at it on my phone, and I missed
No.
the Josh item. So we need to work to back that process up.
I know it's not on the agenda, but we do have members' comments. We should have on there liaison reports. And maybe, at the very least, include that in the future to give us,
We used to have.
I know we used to,
Did
but
used to have
Send
it.
me a note on your recommendations and I'll
Okay,
work to
I'll do
get
that.
I'll get
There's
these in.
member comments,
But no, we used to
but
have a
it's,
thing.
we did have something about liaison
Liaison.
reports.
we used to have liaison reports. We had 48 hours, which on some occasions you need it. It should be there. We may never need it, but it should be there. And also, I mean, this, I'll include this, but maybe citizens' comments at the beginning of the meeting. My recommendation would be not to have back and forth between proponents and people who are concerned. Streamline that into, at the end of the hearing, all comments, comments on upcoming issues prior to, as well as, and I'll put it together for you.
And then, Josh, let's add an agenda item, depending on how busy the 12th is, to talk about the agenda.
Yep.
Process.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're working, we're a new board, we're
I'm
trying to get. Okay, so we do have member comments, we do have one active, so do you have anything to report from your,
I do not at this time.
Ms. Moran?
Serpent, I'm the liaison for Serpent. There is a pedestrian survey that's been issued to both the Select Board and the Planning Board. I'm going to talk with Josh about helping me complete it. I think that Judith has completed on behalf of the Select Board. But they are looking for issues around the various means of transportation in the town. They're looking to put together a report regionally and look how they can look in ways in which we could find grant money and other support. So, and part of this came out of, I just finished my orientation, my first 3-hour orientation, which was terrific. They're a great organization, so I look forward to further reports and some more good news. So,
You want to report on your subcommittee
yes, briefly.
briefly?
We, as you mentioned, Carl, and you appointed Jane Gleason and myself, we are working forward on...
Volunteer, I didn't appoint.
I volunteered, then you appointed me, okay. But we are moving ahead, looking at ways in which we can improve the site plan, site review, rules and regs, as well as the subdivision rules and regulations. We know that there are some work that needs to be done on the zoning bylaws, and therefore, by extension, the rules and regs for both subdivision and site plan. So we have started to gather information. I think, our next step is to determine the way in which that committee will operate relative
It's
to
not a
the
committee.
community.
It's not a committee.
Correct.
Discussion.
Discussion group at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so we will have more information, I think, on the next meeting, but we have begun the discussion and identified areas we could improve, from format to missing areas, so we're making progress.
Thank you. Any comment?
No, I think that we've sort of got a bit of a plan. It's a bit of an elephant, so it's a matter of figuring out how to eat it
Got a big spoon.
and which bites to take first. So,
Thank you. Thank you for your efforts. Mike? Any comments?
Yeah, well, since we're on a safety issue earlier, what's the deal with the earth removal off of Sandwich Road? We got 10-wheelers buzzing through town. They should be going the other way,
Earth removal on Sandwich.
across from the old snow, next to the high school.
next to the
That's a-
new elementary school.
Right, that's a big cut for that.
Oh, okay, the
The
elementary.
apartments that are going in there, yeah. I mean, them 10-wheelers, they should be going the highway. They shouldn't be coming through town. Town's congested enough as it is.
That's really not even a planning board project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want another referral to the zoning enforcement officer? This is not our, we have no enforcement.
No.
But do we have responsibility?
This would be a concerned citizen board, but again,
So where does that person go?
Sandwich your mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Where does that person go?
which person?
With a complaint, as Michael just stated. I know it's not,
It goes to Mr. Turner.
okay. I
As a
like to
citizen-
put names to things.
No, as a citizen, Mr. Turner is the zoning enforcement officer. If we have if a citizen has a zoning concern, and as you've seen, Mr. Souza comes in regularly, and he's always counseled, and he does, and one of the things we'll see with Viewpoint is every citizen complaint that goes to Mr. Turner gets tagged and filed in Viewpoint on the property record. So that if there were a project to come before us relevant to that property, we would be able to see the history of all actions. Conservation Commission, complaints, building permits. We would have a much better perspective of that property. So citizens are urged,
Right.
if they have a problem with telephone poles or other items, to send and there's a form online, somewhere on the town website, I think on the direct,
It's under the building department, it's a complaint form.
right, and it gets recorded, and it gets tagged to the property, so that would be my recommendation.
And I would urge people to put it in writing.
Yes, that's what I said, the first complaint I got was informal, I handled it informally, there's no record of it. The complaint that I got today, I asked the individual to formally complain
Yep.
to us, to Mr. Turner.
I would like to put names to everything. That's going to be, we had a lot of problems in the past. This has got to get done, it doesn't get done, I'd like a name to it and to put it in writing. So out there, they know Mr. Inspector Paul is the person to call, put it in writing, forward it to the appropriate boards.
Right. And then he makes a determination.
Right, right.
And he doesn't have to take action. just
I understand that.
complaint, but at least it's recorded.
Right.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
All in favor, so moved. All in favor?
Julie Moran, yes.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste, yes.
And the chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned at 7:10.
Looks good.